Commander Elias Ward had always believed that space was full of mysteries, but he never expected one of those mysteries to pull him straight out of his ship and into an entirely different place. He had been leading a routine exploration mission near an uncharted nebula when the strange event happened. 1 minute, he was inside the cockpit of the exploration shuttle, checking sensor readings. The next minute, brilliant white light flashed across the windows, flooding every angle of his vision. Before he could even call his crew, the shuttle shook violently, almost as if something had grabbed it from the outside. But there was no creature, no enemy ship, and no visible energy beam. It was a sudden gravitational pulse of force that bent space in a way humanity still did not understand. Elias tried to stabilize the shuttle, but the controls froze. The artificial gravity systems flickered on and off. Sparks flew from the main console. His stomach dropped as the ship tilted sharply to the side. He had only enough time to activate the emergency escape field before the shuttle split apart around him. Then, everything went silent. For a moment or maybe longer, Elias felt like he was weightless inside a soft glow. He could not see anything, and he could not hear anything. It was as if the universe itself was holding its breath. When the light finally faded, he found himself lying on something smooth and cold. He blinked several times, trying to adjust his eyes to the new environment, expecting a crash site or wreckage. Instead, he found himself inside a palace. The room around him was enormous, easily larger than any human hall he had ever seen. The walls were made of tall crystal pillars that glowed with gentle blue light. The ceiling arched like the inside of a vast dome, covered in patterns that shifted slowly like living constellations. The air smelled faintly of minerals and cool rain. Elias slowly pushed himself up, brushing dust off his uniform. He tapped his communicator out of habit. No signal, only static. He stood completely still, listening. There were no engines, no alarms, no footsteps, but the silence did not last long. A soft humming sound filled the room deep, musical, and so smooth it reminded him of a choir singing a single note. The pillars began to shimmer. A crack of light formed at the far end of the hall, widening like a door opening. Elias took a step back, preparing himself for anything. From the bright passage emerged a group of tall figures. They walked gracefully, almost floating across the floor. Their bodies were covered in elegant armor made of silver plates that curved like flowing water. Each figure had long limbs, smooth skin that reflected the light in soft colors, and large, intelligent eyes. Elias could not tell if they were soldiers or nobles, but they carried themselves with confidence. At the center of the group was someone very different. She was taller than the others, her presence commanding but calm. Her scales shimmered in shades of violet and white, like the surface of a pearl catching starlight. She wore a crown made of thin, interlocking crystal shards that glowed softly. Her eyes, deep violet and bright with awareness, examined Elias with curiosity rather than fear. This had to be their leader. Elias swallowed, trying to keep his posture firm. He was a trained commander, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. All he had were instincts and calm professionalism. The tall woman stepped closer, her steps light but echoing slightly through the hall. Her voice, when she spoke, was gentle but powerful, as if her words held natural authority. "You are the human," she said, her tone more fascinated than questioning. "The one from beyond the boundaries?" Elias blinked. "I am human, yes. My name is Commander Elias Ward of the Star Union Fleet. I didn't come here intentionally. My ship was pulled into, well, I'm not sure what." The alien leader tilted her head slightly, as if studying the shape of his words. Then she turned to the group behind her, who were waiting in respectful silence. "This is my husband," she declared calmly. Every alien behind her nodded deeply, as if her words were sacred truth. Elias froze. Husband? He almost looked behind him, wondering if she was talking about someone else. But there was no one. He was definitely the only human present. He raised both hands slowly, not in fear, but in an attempt to pause the misunderstanding. "I think there is some confusion," he said politely. "We have never met before." The Queen smiled, a warm, confident smile that reached her eyes. "You may not understand yet," she said, "but our records have spoken of your arrival for thousands of cycles. The prophecy described your species. It described your form. And it described the moment you would appear in the Hall of Mirrors." All signs aligned. Elias stared at her, stunned. He had heard many strange things in space, but this was on a different level. She continued softly. "The star-bonded partner comes from the distant void. He stands unshaken even when dragged through the light. He speaks with clarity. He carries the mark of unknown energy." She gestured toward him. "You carry it." Elias looked down at himself. He didn't feel different. No glow, no strange markings, nothing unusual. But the queen seemed completely convinced. The nobles behind her watched him with a mixture of respect and hesitation. They didn't look hostile, but they also didn't appear completely sure of him. Some exchanged glances, clearly unsure whether to accept him fully. The queen, however, had no doubt at all. She stepped closer, and although Elias was tense, he stood his ground. "My name is Queen Cerelia of the Astral Clade," she said. "You have arrived in a place few outsiders have ever seen. Yet your presence fulfills the ancient signs exactly." Elias took a slow breath. "Your Majesty, I am honored to meet you, but I'm afraid I don't know anything about your prophecy. I wasn't sent here by fate. I was pulled here by some kind of gravitational event." Cerelia's smile deepened, kind but firm. "Prophecy often chooses its own path." Elias wanted to argue, to explain again that this was a misunderstanding. But he also realized he needed more information before he pushed too hard. If these aliens truly believed he had some role, challenging them too quickly might cause conflict. And conflict was the last thing he wanted when stranded in an unknown world, with no way to call for help. "May I ask," he said carefully, "why your prophecy speaks of a husband?" The queen looked at him with steady confidence. "It is not a romantic bond as humans might imagine. The word translates imperfectly. It means one who stands beside the throne, one who joins the fate of our people, one who becomes a bridge between worlds." That explanation eased some of Elias's confusion, though not all of it. At least it suggested he wasn't expected to suddenly become part of a marriage ceremony. It was more symbolic, though still surprising. Before he could ask more questions, the queen turned to her people. "Prepare the chamber of clarity," she instructed. "Our guest has traveled far. He shall be welcomed according to ancient custom." Her followers bowed again and moved gracefully out of the hall. Cerelia then looked back at Elias. "Come, you must understand where you are, and why your arrival matters." Elias nodded slowly. He didn't have a better plan. He didn't even know how to escape this place. But he knew one thing. He needed to learn everything he could if he wanted to survive. As he followed her through the glowing crystal halls, he felt the weight of destiny pressing in, whether real or imagined. He didn't know, but one thing was certain: his life, and possibly the future of humanity, had just taken a turn no human had ever experienced before. Commander Elias Ward followed Queen Cerelia through the bright crystal corridors of the Astral Palace. Each hallway seemed to glow with its own soft light, as if the walls were alive and breathing. Patterns moved gently inside the crystal pillars, shapes that looked like galaxies, stars, and drifting energy. The palace felt ancient but advanced at the same time, a strange blend of art and science. Elias walked carefully, trying not to look overwhelmed. He was a trained commander, but even he couldn't pretend this was normal. Nothing about this place was normal. He didn't understand how he got here, why the queen believed he was a predicted partner, or what exactly she expected from him. Still, she walked beside him with calm confidence, her violet eyes shining with certainty. It made Elias wonder how long her people had been waiting for someone like him. And why him? Out of all humans in the galaxy, why did their prophecy choose him? He needed answers. As they entered a larger hall, he noticed groups of aliens standing in circles. Some were talking in soft voices. Others bowed respectfully when the queen passed by. But many looked toward Elias with wide eyes filled with curiosity and something else, suspicion. One group whispered quietly. Elias didn't understand their language, but their eyes kept returning to him. Queen Cerelia noticed and stopped walking. The hall grew silent. All attention shifted to her. "This is the human from the prophecy," she said clearly. "His arrival marks the beginning of a new era." Her words echoed through the hall like a wave. Some aliens bowed, others exchanged tense glances. One tall noble with silver markings stepped forward. His voice was firm and polite. "Your Majesty, is it wise to accept a being from another world so easily? We know nothing about him." Elias felt the question strike like a cold wind. He stayed calm, but every muscle in his body tightened. He didn't want to appear defensive or aggressive. Queen Cerelia answered before he could speak. "The prophecy has guided us for many generations. You have read it yourself, Counselor Daryl. His arrival at this exact time, in this exact place, cannot be coincidence." Daryl bowed slightly but did not step back. "Perhaps, but we must consider safety. What if this human brings danger with him? What if his presence disrupts our stability?" Elias understood the concern. Even humans would react the same if a mysterious alien suddenly appeared in one of their capitals. So he stepped forward and spoke carefully. "I understand your worries. I did not plan to come here. My ship was caught in a force I don't understand. I mean no harm to your people." Daryl studied him for a moment, then slowly nodded. But the suspicion on the faces of several others told Elias that earning their trust would not be easy. Queen Cerelia placed a hand over her chest, a gesture of calm authority. "The Chamber of Clarity will ease your doubts. The human will be examined not as a prisoner, but as a guest. His energy signature will show the truth." Murmurs filled the hall. Some nobles seemed satisfied. Others still looked unsure. Elias leaned slightly toward Cerelia. "The Chamber of Clarity? What does that involve?" She looked at him with a warm expression. "A harmless scan. It reveals the nature of one's energy and origin. It will prove that you are not a threat." Elias nodded. It sounded reasonable enough, and he had little choice. He needed their trust if he wanted to understand what had happened, and hopefully find a way back home. Cerelia continued guiding him deeper into the palace. The hallways grew wider, and the decorations became more ceremonial. Intricate patterns glowed under their feet as if the floor responded to their presence. Elias noticed that several nobles followed at a distance, observing him closely. At last, they arrived at a large circular chamber. The door was shaped like a ring of swirling light. Cerelia pressed her hand against a panel, and the ring opened like a flower blooming. Inside was a rounded room filled with soft blue light. In the center stood a transparent platform hovering slightly above the floor. "This is the Chamber of Clarity," Cerelia explained. "It does not harm. It only reveals." Elias stepped onto the platform. It felt solid, but weightless at the same time, like standing on a soft magnetic field. The chamber lights grew brighter. A gentle hum filled the air as thin streams of energy circled around him. The energy felt warm, like sunlight on skin. It scanned his body slowly from head to toe. Cerelia watched with calm confidence. Several nobles watched from behind a crystal barrier, silent, studying, judging. After a few moments, the lights formed a shape above Elias. It looked like a star made of moving lines, shifting and glowing. The symbol seemed to pulse with each of his breaths. Cerelia gasped softly. "The star-bonded mark. It is exactly as written." Daryl stepped closer, eyes wide. "Impossible. The prophecy said the partner would carry a foreign energy tied to the outer void." Cerelia nodded. "And he does." Elias looked up at the glowing symbol. "What does it mean?" The queen smiled softly. "It means your arrival was not an accident." The nobles whispered among themselves. The tension in the room shifted. Some looked convinced. Some still looked troubled. Daryl spoke again, quieter this time. "If the prophecy is true, then this human may be the key to stabilizing the energy storms." Another noble added, "But is he ready? He does not know our ways." Elias stepped off the platform, standing tall. "I may not know your ways, but I am willing to learn. And I want to help if helping also means understanding what brought me here." Cerelia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Your presence here already brings hope." Daryl bowed deeply. "Then we must call the council. The queen cannot make decisions alone in matters of prophecy." Cerelia nodded. "Prepare the council chamber. The nobles hurried out to make arrangements. Elias turned to Cerelia. It seems some of your people still do not trust me. She met his gaze calmly. Trust must be earned, but do not let their fear trouble you. Change always brings uncertainty. He appreciated her honesty. What happens at this council meeting? They will question you, she said. They will discuss your rival, and they will decide your place in this world. Elias felt the pressure of her words. His place in this world? He hadn't even decided if he wanted to stay, but he understood the importance. These people believed he was part of a prophecy that meant everything to them. Cerelia motioned for him to follow. Until the meeting begins, I will show you the place you have entered. They walked out of the chamber into a balcony that overlooked a breathtaking scene. The entire dimension stretched out like a cosmic ocean. Stars shimmered far in the distance. Floating islands of crystal drifted calmly, glowing with patterns of energy. The air sparkled faintly with particles of light. This is the astral realm, she said softly. Our home, our kingdom, a place built on harmony between energy and life. Elias stood silently, mesmerized. He had never seen anything so peaceful and strange. Cerelia continued. But it is not as stable as it seems. The storms are growing stronger. If they continue, our realm may collapse. Elias turned to her. And you believe I can help stop that? She nodded with full certainty. I do. A heavy responsibility settled on his shoulders. He was just a human explorer, not a hero, not a chosen one. But these people needed hope, and the queen believed in him completely. Before he could respond, a messenger approached. Your Majesty, the council is ready. Cerelia looked at Elias with a steady, trusting gaze. Come, your future begins now. Elias exhaled deeply and followed her. Whatever happened next would shape not only his own destiny, but possibly the fate of an entire dimension. The council chamber of the astral clade was shaped like a giant circle made of glowing crystal. The walls were tall and curved inward slightly, giving the room the feeling of standing inside a giant star. Soft blue light shined from the floor, forming patterns that looked like waves of energy gently flowing beneath the surface. Commander Elias Ward entered beside Queen Cerelia. The council members, 12 tall aliens dressed in silver and violet robes, turned their eyes toward him instantly. Their faces showed a mix of curiosity, uncertainty, and caution. The air felt thick with tension, but also with something else, expectation. Elias reminded himself to stay calm. He had faced space storms, malfunctioning ships, and dangerous missions before, but facing a council of powerful aliens who believed he was part of a prophecy, that was a new type of pressure. Queen Cerelia stepped forward first, raising her hand. Honored Council, we gathered today because the prophecy has come to life. The star-bonded partner has arrived. A murmur moved through the room. One of the counselors, a female elder with shimmering silver eyes, spoke gently. We do not reject the possibility, Your Majesty, but we must understand the truth fully. Another counselor, younger and sharper in appearance, leaned forward. Human, what brought you here? Tell us everything. Elias nodded and explained clearly how his shuttle was exploring the nebula, how the gravitational pulse grabbed his ship, how the emergency field activated, and how he suddenly appeared in the palace. He avoided guesses and focused only on facts. He spoke calmly, respectfully. When he finished, the room stayed silent. Finally, Counselor Darrell, the one who had questioned him earlier, spoke. Your arrival matches the moment the old records predicted. But understanding the prophecy is not enough. We must know your mind. What do you seek here? Elias took a deep breath. I want to understand what happened to me. And if I can help your people, I want to try. Conflict benefits no one. If there's something I can offer, knowledge, skill, or even cooperation, I will do my best. The counselors exchanged glances. Cerelia added gently. His energy pattern matches the ancient mark exactly. He is not here by chance. Another counselor spoke. Intentions and symbols are different matters. We must know if he is capable. Elias didn't take offense. Their caution made sense. They didn't know humans, their strengths, or their flaws. Counselor Darrell pointed toward the wide window at the back of the chamber. Very well, let him see what we face. The transparent window shifted from clear to dark, like a screen activating. Slowly, an image formed, a storm of swirling colors: blue, white, purple, and black, moving like a living hurricane through space. The center was a bright sphere, pulsing like an unstable star. "This is the astral storm," Daryl said. "It grows more violent each cycle. If it reaches our capital, the palace, and all around it may collapse." Elias stared at the storm. It didn't look like any natural phenomenon he knew. It seemed alive, as if reacting to something unseen. "How long has this been happening?" he asked. "Many generations," Cerelia replied. "But it has grown worse recently. Our technology struggles to stabilize its energy." Elias stepped closer to the window, studying the storm carefully. "What exactly makes it unstable?" The counselors seemed surprised by his direct question. Daryl answered, "The storm responds to energy patterns. But our energy, our technology, and our bodies share the same signature. The storm changes whenever we try to approach it, so your tools make it react unpredictably." Elias said thoughtfully, "Because you share similar energy types." The counselors looked at him and suddenly seemed to understand something new. The elder counselor leaned forward. "Are you suggesting the storm reacts differently to a being of different energy?" "It might," Elias said. "Humans and your species probably have different biological energy readings. If the storm sees your energy as familiar or connected, it might react strongly to it, but I might appear neutral to it." The chamber grew silent. Queen Cerelia smiled faintly. "This is what humans do. They think in new ways. They see from angles we overlook." Daryl looked at Elias with newfound attention. "Human, would you be willing to test your theory?" Elias hesitated only a moment before answering. "I'm willing, but I need to understand more about the storm and your technology." Cerelia placed a hand on his arm in a supportive gesture. "Then you shall see our science chambers." The Science Wing Palace's science wing was a massive hall filled with floating screens, glowing crystals, and smooth silver devices that moved silently across rails in the air. Elias followed Cerelia and several scientists who walked with elegant precision. A tall scientist named Rilith showed him a floating model of the storm. "This is a simulation. The storm changes shape whenever we use our tools on it." Elias studied the model. "Can you show me what happens when you send a stabilizing wave?" Rilith pressed a control panel, and a beam of blue energy moved toward the simulated storm. Immediately, the storm twisted, bulging outward as if rejecting the energy. Cerelia explained, "Every approach we try only makes it worse." Elias watched closely. "Your wave is strong. Maybe too strong. Humans use a technique we call micro-adjustment. Instead of pushing with full force, we apply a small ripple, observe the reaction, then adjust and repeat. Tiny steps." Rilith blinked. "Tiny steps? That seems inefficient." "It is slow," Elias agreed, "but it gives you control. It prevents sudden reactions." The scientists exchanged surprised looks. Cerelia smiled proudly. "This is why the prophecy described the partner as the one who teaches new ways. Humans adapt." Rilith motioned to a device. "Would you like to try adjusting the wave?" Elias nodded. He approached the panel. The controls felt smooth and intuitive. He lowered the wave's strength, then sent out a tiny pulse barely visible. The simulated storm reacted differently this time. Instead of exploding outward, it rippled softly. Rilith gasped. "It did not resist." "Because the push was small," Elias said. "You didn't give it reason to fight back." The scientist whispered excitedly. Cerelia looked at Elias with shining eyes. "You see? His knowledge can guide us." A growing trust over the next several hours. Elias worked with the scientists. He explained human engineering principles, slow adjustments, testing one variable at a time, predicting reactions rather than forcing outcomes. The aliens absorbed his explanations quickly, fascinated by the differences in human logic. Their technology was far more advanced, but sometimes their solutions were too powerful, too direct. Elias offered a different way of thinking, simple, careful, step by step. Several council members arrived later, observing quietly. Rilith demonstrated a new test wave based on Elias's advice. The storm simulation responded calmly again. "It works," Daryl whispered, stunned. The elder counselor spoke softly. Perhaps the prophecy was not about power, but perspective. Elias didn't claim victory. This is just the simulation. The real storm may react differently, but it's a start. Daryl finally bowed deeply. Human, you have shown skill, calm thought, and cooperation. That is worthy of respect. Elias returned a polite nod. I want to help however I can. Cerullia's voice was warm. He has already helped, and he will help more. The council members exchanged looks of acceptance. Their earlier doubt was fading, replaced by genuine trust. A new challenge at night. Cerullia guided Elias to a balcony overlooking the glowing horizon of the astral realm. Floating islands drifted peacefully, and streams of light flowed through the sky like glowing rivers. You changed many minds today, she said softly. I only shared what I know, Elias replied, and what you know may save us. She said. Her tone was calm, but her eyes shone with gratitude. The storm grows stronger each cycle. Soon, we must face it directly. Elias nodded. I'll help, but I need to understand everything before we go near it. That we will do together, she said. He believed her. Somehow, her confidence made the impossible seem possible. As the distant stars flickered across the sky, Elias realized something important. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of something bigger. And tomorrow, the real challenge would begin. The next morning in the astral realm began with a soft glow rising across the horizon. Light drifted like gentle mist through the floating islands, and the palace walls reflected the colors and beautiful patterns. Commander Elias Ward stood on a balcony, watching the strange but peaceful landscape. It was unlike anything on Earth, yet he felt strangely calm here. He knew today would bring challenges. The council had accepted his ideas, but not everyone in the palace agreed that he should be here. He could sense it in the way some alien nobles watched him, curious, cautious, sometimes even suspicious. But he also knew something else. Queen Cerullia trusted him completely, and that trust gave him strength. A soft hum echoed through the air as Cerullia approached from behind. Her steps were light but confident, and her violet eyes glowed in the morning light. Are you ready? She asked. Elias turned to her. Ready as I can be. What happens today? The council wants to see how your ideas apply to the real storm, she said. Not just the simulation. Elias nodded. He had expected this. Then we need to prepare. Cerullia looked thoughtful. Yes, but be careful. Not all council members want you near the storm. They fear the prophecy might change things too quickly. Before Elias could reply, a messenger rushed into the balcony area. The messenger bowed quickly. Your Majesty, he said, the inner council has requested your presence. There's disagreement. Cerullia's expression tightened slightly. Disagreement about what? It concerns the human, the messenger answered. A group of nobles believes he should not be involved in the storm approach. Elias sighed quietly. I expected this. Cerullia turned to him with steady determination. Then we shall face them together. The confrontation council chamber felt colder today. The air carried tension instead of curiosity. As Elias and Cerullia entered, several nobles straightened, watching them closely. Counselor Daryl stood at the center. Earlier, he had shown respect for Elias, but now his face looked troubled. We must discuss an urgent matter, Daryl said. The storm's activity increased overnight. Some believe this is a sign that involving the human is dangerous. A noble stepped forward, tall, broad, with deep blue markings across his arms. His voice was firm but controlled. Your Majesty, we respect the prophecy, but we cannot risk our realm by allowing an outsider to interfere in matters he does not understand. Elias remained silent. Allowing Cerullia to speak first, she looked at the noble calmly. If the storm is growing stronger, then we need solutions. Elias has already offered us new ways of thinking. It is too much change, the noble argued. Too fast? What if his energy affects the storm in unexpected ways? What if he makes things worse? Elias stepped forward now. If I may speak? The room fell quiet. I understand your fear, he said. Where I come from, sudden change also causes uncertainty. But the simulation showed that your stronger energy waves destabilize the storm. My presence might be useful because I have different energy. I want the same thing you want, safety and stability. Several nobles exchanged uncertain glances. But the blue-marked noble didn't yield. Even if your intentions are good, your knowledge is limited. You are one human. We cannot depend on you. Elias nodded. Then don't depend on me alone. Let me work with your scientists. Let us combine knowledge. My ideas do not replace yours, they support them. That shifted the room. Even Daryl looked slightly impressed. Cerelia stepped beside Elias. Her presence alone brought calm to the chamber. This is not a question of trust alone. It is a question of survival. If we reject every tool that destiny offers, then we doom ourselves. Some nobles nodded slowly. But the blue-marked noble still looked hesitant. And if he fails? Elias answered simply, then I fail while trying to help you. But without trying, none of us know what could be achieved. There was silence. Then Daryl stepped forward. I believe the human has earned the right to join our efforts. He has acted with calm thought and shared useful insight. If we deny his contribution, we deny the prophecy itself. The elder counselor spoke next. The prophecy described a union of worlds. Perhaps this cooperation is what it truly meant. One by one, more counselors voiced agreement. Finally, even the blue-marked noble gave a slow bow. Very well. Let the human join the storm mission, but he must be guided and protected. Elias breathed a quiet sigh of relief. He wasn't seeking power, he only wanted a chance to help. Now he had it. Preparing for the storm vessel was unlike any human craft. It floated without wings or engines, moving through the sky like a smooth silver sphere surrounded by faint light. Inside, the air felt warm, and the walls shifted with soft patterns. Elias studied the controls with curiosity. They responded to gestures and energy signals rather than buttons or switches. Rilith, the lead scientist, guided him patiently. This device will track the storm's reactions to your presence, Rilith explained, attaching a small crystal band around Elias's wrist. It glowed faintly in response to his heartbeat. What does it measure? Elias asked. Your energy pattern, emotional state, and physical condition, Rilith said. It ensures your safety. Elias nodded. Good. Safety is important for everyone. Cerelia approached next, holding a smooth crystal sphere. This will allow me to communicate with you during the mission. Even if the storm blocks normal signals, this sphere works through resonance. Elias accepted it. The sphere felt warm. You will not be alone out there, Cerelia assured him. Her voice was calm. But Elias noticed something deeper behind her eyes' concern. She cared about her people, and she cared about him too, though perhaps in a symbolic, destiny-based way rather than a personal one. He offered a reassuring smile. I'll be careful, and I'll follow your instructions exactly. She nodded, but didn't relax completely. Moments later, the storm vessel lifted off the ground with a gentle hum. Elias, Rilith, and a small team of scientists stood inside as the sphere floated toward the dark horizon. Outside, the energy rivers of the astral realm shimmered with increasing intensity. In the far distance, the great storm swirled like a massive glowing whirlpool. Elias felt his heart beat faster. This was real, this was dangerous, and this was his chance to prove that humanity could bring something valuable to the table. Inside the storm Zonius, the vessel crossed into the outer edges of the storm. The air changed. Light flickered across the windows, and the hum of the engines grew uneven. The storm looked chaotic, streams of energy twisting and spinning like giant ribbons. Rilith monitored the readings. The storm recognizes our approach. It is reacting, but slower than usual. Because I'm here? Elias asked. Possibly, Rilith said. The vessel gently entered deeper into the storm. A wave of bright energy hit them, causing the vessel to tilt. The lights flickered. Elias grabbed a support bar, steadying himself. We are stable, Rilith said quickly. Adjusting internal field, Elias watched the swirling energy. Can you project a small microwave like in the simulation? Rilith nodded. Activating. A tiny beam of energy extended from the ship. The storm rippled but did not explode or swell like before. It worked, Elias said. Again, small adjustments. Rilith repeated the waves several times. Each time, the storm responded gently. Then a warning light flashed, energy spike ahead. A scientist shouted. The vessel shook violently as the storm suddenly twisted. Elias fell to one knee, grabbing a rail. The storm grew louder, almost like a deep rumble. Rilith shouted. The storm is reacting to something unfamiliar, something strong. Elias looked out the window and froze. Another vessel was approaching from the opposite side, a rival noble. Faction. The same group that didn't trust him. Their strong energy signature was disturbing the storm. Badly. Elias stood quickly. We need to signal them to stop. Their energy is making things worse. Rilith tried. They are ignoring all messages. The storm roared louder. Elias made a decision. I need to speak to them, he said. Directly. Face to face. Rilith stared at him. It is dangerous, I know, Elias said. But I might be the only one the storm reacts calmly to, without waiting for approval. He grabbed the communication sphere Cerelia had given him, Queen Cerelia. He said into the sphere, I'm going to approach the rival vessel. They're causing instability. Her voice came through at once, filled with concern. Elias, be careful. I will, he promised. Then he stepped toward the exit port. Because if he didn't act now, the storm would grow too powerful for anyone to stop, and the entire astral realm could fall. The storm vessel shook again as Commander Elias Ward moved toward the exit chamber. The bright, swirling light outside flashed across his face like moving fire. The astral storm was louder now, almost like a huge sea crashing against invisible cliffs. The scientists inside the vessel watched him with wide, worried eyes, but Elias stayed calm. He had faced danger before, but this was different. This time, he wasn't just protecting himself. He was protecting an entire realm. Rilith, the lead scientist, rushed to him. Elias, please reconsider. The storm levels are rising too fast. Going outside the vessel is extremely risky. Elias tightened the crystal band on his wrist. If I don't talk to them, their energy will keep disturbing the storm. We saw what their waves did in the simulation. If they continue, the storm might collapse on itself. Rilith swallowed nervously. You are the only one the storm reacts gently to. But that also means you will be exposed. I know, Elias said. But trust me, I'll be careful. The scientists exchanged uneasy glances, but none of them tried to stop him. Everyone understood the truth. Elias was the only one who could approach the rival vessel. Without making the storm worse, he activated the communication sphere in his hand. Queen Cerelia, I'm stepping outside. Her voice came through immediately, filled with strong emotion. Elias, remember tiny actions. Calm energy. Do not rush. Understood, he said. I'll come back. I will be waiting, she replied softly. Into the storm exit hatch slid open with a low hum. A protective field wrapped around Elias like a soft, glowing bubble. When he stepped outside, his feet touched a solid platform of floating crystal attached to the vessel's outer edge. The storm wind wasn't wind at all, it was pure energy swirling around him in bright ribbons of light. The energy currents circled his protective bubble, brushing against it gently. They felt like soft waves instead of violent strikes. The storm sees you. Rilith's voice spoke through the wristband. And it is reacting peacefully. Elias took a slow breath. Good. That means there's still time. He looked ahead, through the swirling energy. He saw the rival vessel almost identical in design, but darker, with bold markings that signaled a powerful noble faction. Their engines glowed strongly, and that strength was exactly what the storm responded to with hostility. Elias began walking across a glowing pathway that extended automatically from his vessel toward the other one. The storm pulsed around him, but each pulse felt softer the closer he walked. As he approached the rival vessel, a panel opened, and the blue-marked noble from the council appeared. He was wearing ceremonial armor that reflected the storm's light. The noble stared at Elias with deep surprise. Human, what are you doing out here? Trying to stop the storm from destroying everything, Elias answered simply. The noble stepped closer, his voice tense. This storm responds to power. We came because we thought we could force it into submission. Elias shook his head. Force is what makes it worse. I told the council the same thing. The simulation showed it clearly. The noble looked slightly troubled. We believe the simulation was flawed. It wasn't, Elias said. He pointed toward the storm. Look around. The more you push, the harder it pushes back. A burst of bright light flashed in the distance as if the storm agreed. The noble turned to look at his own ship. His crew watched anxiously from behind shimmering windows. Elias stepped forward. Your ships have strong energy. Too strong. The storm sees that as a threat. You're making it angry. The noble hesitated. If we retreat, will the storm calm down? Yes, Elias said, but only if we work together. No one can control the storm alone. A long silence followed. The storm crackled around them. Impatient. Finally, the noble lowered his head. Then guide us. Elias exhaled in relief. Good. First, reduce your energy output. Slowly, not all at once. The noble signaled his crew with a gesture. The rival vessel dimmed noticeably, its glow softening. The storm reacted instantly, its swirling slowed. Elias smiled. See, it's working. The noble watched with wide eyes. The prophecy, perhaps it was true after all. Prophecy or not, Elias said, we need to act fast. Let's join Cerilia's vessel and stabilize the storm together. The noble nodded firmly. For the first time since Elias arrived in the astral realm, both sides stood united, stabilizing the storm and back inside the main vessel. Elias returned to Rilith and the team. They immediately began scanning the storm's new patterns. Rilith was shocked. The energy levels are dropping. The storm is reacting much more gently. Good, Elias said. Now we begin micro-adjustments. The rival vessel moved into formation beside them, but at a safe distance. Their engines remained soft and calm. The entire storm zone shifted slightly, like a living creature relaxing for the first time in ages. Elias placed his hand on the main control panel. Start with a tiny adjustment wave. Just a ripple. Rilith nodded and sent out a small pulse. The storm rippled but didn't lash out. Elias studied the readings. Again, slightly upward this time, Rilith adjusted the wave's direction slowly. Very slowly. The storm's chaotic center began to shrink. Daryl, watching through a communication link, sounded amazed. It's working. The storm is stabilizing. It's responding to harmony, Elias said. Not force. Over the next hour, Elias directed a series of tiny adjustments waves so small that no astral clade scientist would have ever considered them useful. But human engineering had different rules. It valued small steps. Careful steps. The storm continued shrinking until its bright center softened into a glowing sphere. Stable and calm. A final pulse was needed. Elias stepped forward. Cerilia, are you there? Her voice came through the sphere. Always. He smiled faintly. We need one last adjustment. A resonance from your side. Something gentle that matches the storm's new rhythm. Cerilia answered softly, I understand. A moment later, a soft violet wave drifted from her direction. The storm's center pulsed. Once. Twice. Then the entire storm folded inward like a flower closing, shrinking into a small glowing orb that hovered peacefully in the air. The astral storm was no longer a threat. It was finally stable. The scientists gasped. Some cried. Some simply stared in silence. Elias let out a long breath he didn't realize he had been holding. Rilith whispered, You saved us. Elias shook his head. We did it together. All of us. A new beginning. When the vessels returned to the palace, crowds filled the glowing halls. They cheered, bowed, and sang in voices that echoed across the crystal domes. Elias had never seen so many people united in joy. The rival nobles approached him first. The blue-marked noble bowed deeply. Human, your wisdom has shown us a new path. We were wrong to doubt you. Elias clasped the noble's forearm. Thank you, and thank you for trusting me when it mattered most. Queen Cerilia stepped forward next. Her violet eyes glowed brighter than ever, filled with sincere respect. She raised her voice to the entire hall. Let all witness this moment. Commander Elias Ward of humanity has proven the prophecy true not by power, but by unity. He brought our people together. He brought peace to the storm. The crowd cheered again. Then, with a warm smile, she turned back to her nobles and declared proudly, This is my husband. But this time, everyone understood the meaning. Not a romantic title, not a forced label, but an honor, a symbol of unity, a bridge between two worlds. Elias bowed respectfully. It's an honor. I hope to continue helping your people, and we hope you will remain, Cerelia said softly. Our realm is safe for now, but you have much to teach us, and much to learn here. Elias looked around at the shining halls, the grateful faces, and the peaceful energy drifting in the air. He thought about the quiet stars outside, the floating islands, and the storm they had just calmed. He realized something important. He belonged here now, not because of destiny, not because of prophecy, but because he had found a place where his ideas could make a real difference. He met Cerelia's gaze. I will stay, as an ambassador of humanity, and a friend to your realm. Her smile was warm and sincere, and as the hall filled with light and celebration, Elias understood that this was not an ending. This was the beginning of a new future, for humanity, for the astral clade, and for the strange, wonderful connection that destiny had created between them.